G'day, Bomber fans. Yeah, that was a pretty bad loss. That was one of the worst losses we've suffered in quite a while, I reckon. So I actually recorded and edited and had a video fully done on YouTube waiting to upload. And then I rewatched it, and it was just a solid 20-minute yap session. And nothing was good about it. So I decided to sleep on it and actually think through the game a bit so I could be more concise and actually say something worth listening to. I got to save the aggression for the absolutely Essendon guys. I'm keen for that video because they're going to be angry over there. And yeah, I feel like we have to start by saying, we got to chill out a bit. I get the response and the frustration and the anger after the match, but people do have to realise how early it is into the season still. This time last year, Hawthorn got absolutely pantsed by Melbourne. People were talking about them tanking. That was a legitimate narrative early into last year. That is round 2 last year. Or even if you go a week further to round 3, Brisbane had just lost their 3rd match in a row. People were saying they were done. I'm not comparing us to those teams. I am just saying there is a long way to go in the season. It is impossible to know where each team will end up this early. So just remember that we still don't have proper reads on all teams yet, and we won't for quite a while. So yeah, it's a very unpredictable league nowadays, and last night's game proved that. The Saints had the same result last week as us this week, and then they just went and beat Geelong. In saying that though, I thought yesterday was just abysmal. It was a horrible, horrible performance from the club. It was very alarming. We're lucky we didn't lose by more, to be honest, because I thought we were just dreadful. Taking nothing away from Adelaide, they killed us, but man, it's going to be an annoying review. So yeah, let's get into it, and remember to leave your votes down in the comments. Okay, quarter by quarter recap. So we got off the mark early. Draper got our first goal with a very reasonable kicking action. Nothing to talk about there. That is what you want the kids to be learning, kicking like that. I mean, it worked. He got us the goal. And you know what? I feel like scoring first with a team like Essendon is a bit of a double-edged sword, because it not only fires up your opponent, but something I'll talk about today, it makes us more complacent. I don't know. You combine those two things, and it's of course why the Crows piled on the next 3 goals. I feel like our goals are just placeholders, and they're momentum generators for our opposition. The Crows ended up kicking 4 of the last 6 of the quarter to go out to an early lead of 15 points at the first break, but it was looking pretty dire. It just felt like we were a solid gear behind early. Quarter time couldn't come soon enough for us. We were hitting the scoreboard, yes, but the way the game was playing out, you could see potential for a blowout. The Crows were sacrificing their defence at times to really move the ball forward and get into really dangerous space around the ground. So yes, they allowed us to get some goals. We kicked 3 for the term, not bad. But on the flip side, they went out and kicked 5, and they should have had more. So yeah, there were definitely warning signs the way the game was playing out. You felt like something really had to shift for us to stay in the game. Not just effort, but the way the game was structured. I don't think people are talking about that enough, to be honest, because yes, a big part of this match was effort and intent, but also there looked to be a clear lack of a plan B. The Crows just needed to make sure we weren't winning too much territory out of stoppages and centre bounces, and the first quarter they were doing that. They clearly wanted to make this game one that revolved around transition, because they were just going to be able to compete with the way they were moving the footy. They looked very, very clean early, and we did not. The second quarter was a really important one. We needed to get on the front foot early and show that we weren't going to be taken lightly. And what did we do? We crumbled and let them kick 3 in the first 5 minutes. And when you're already trailing by 3 goals, you concede 3 more. That's the loss right there. You rarely come back from deficits like that. And when it grew out to 40 at halftime, only 19 teams have ever managed to come back from a halftime score that big. Yeah, there were danger signs in the first, but the second, everything started getting worse. There was really nothing going Essendon's way. Adelaide were pretty clearly dominating every facet of the game by this stage, and they were making us pay on the scoreboard too. We got a couple of goals back against the grain, but they were always answered and responded to by the Crows. It was just a really poor quarter. We looked shaky in the first, but we looked horrid in the second. We were just not coming to play at all. We had 34 points from the half. The Crows had 52 from turnover alone. The third, it started well. We got a couple of goals back early. We reduced the lead to 27, and then you think, okay, maybe there was a halftime rev up. Maybe there is something here. Maybe a response. But yeah, then they just cut off our supply. I don't know. It is so rare to see a team completely on the back foot like we were. We conceded 6 goals in a row for the second time this year, and it came after we got momentum. That's the frustrating thing. Gresham kicks that goal, the crowd is up and about, and then we concede 6 on the hop. And something I've talked about so much is our inability to retain momentum. And I talked about it before. It's that complacency. It's why we never smash teams. We're a team capable of putting together 2 to 3 quick goals, but I cannot remember the last time we would have kicked 6 or 7 in a row. And that wasn't the issue yesterday. We barely had a forward line, but it's also the fact that we just dropped our heads defensively, and there was no intent to keep that surge going. The next 2 centre bounces after Keys responded to Gresham's goal featured both Sartas and Perkins, and that is not the way to keep us on the front foot. No offence to them, but that is where we need senior players around the ball, hands to it first, keeping that momentum going. I just think there's an issue with our midfield depth right now, and this is why I think people are always silly when they say we shouldn't draft midfielders because we already have some on the list. There is a clear difference between Merritt, Caldwell, Durham, and then the rest of the team. We are right now, we have 3 proper capable midfielders, or 4 with 1 injured, Parish. And unfortunately, as I said in the preview, the Crows are just stacked in that area because they drafted there. They keep drafting even though they have them. We were fumbling so hard to get the game back on our level. We were trying to do it through the engine room, and the Crows weren't letting us. It shows a clear lack of plan B, as I said. We had nothing to fall back on. The game was being played right into Adelaide's hands. They were controlling the ground. It was kick mark. They had 36 marks for the quarter. We had 8. They had so much control over this match. And the fourth, I mean, by this stage, I was focusing more on the VFL, if I'm being honest. We won that game at least. But no, I mean, the fourth evened out. We kicked 6 goals, they kicked 7. It was probably fun for neutrals. There were some good moments for Essendon too, I guess, some little highlights. But yeah, by this stage, the game's done. The foot was off the gas. The Crows were just content with their position. Enough so to be able to sub off Isaac Rankin. And, you know, I don't really like judging the fourth as an indicator of anything in a game like this. But yeah, I mean, it was more of the same. The Crows just controlling the game. They never really let us have any control whatsoever. Seriously, I know we were bad, but let's talk about how great the Crows were. That is a really dangerous team right now. And St Kilda's win over Geelong last night proved that. They're going to do some damage, Adelaide. I know their fans would love to hear it. For some reason, this channel gets more Crows fans in here than any other team. So, yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think us in SA probably saw this coming a bit, or not, maybe not to this extent. I had them in the 8, but I didn't think they were going to be this good. There were definitely quite a few people underestimating the Crows, so we now know that they're a really good team, and we are not. We gave them a percentage and confidence boost, their first win at the G since 2017. Adelaide defeated Essendon 161 to 100, just a wacky, high-scoring game of footy. Weird stuff happens when these two teams play, and that was definitely a weird game. So let's talk about it. What went wrong? Yeah, look, last week I remember Brad Scott in the press conference talking about how the computer or the data was lighting up green for Essendon because the key metrics and measures to getting the upper hand in a game of footy were all leaning Essendon's way. In the end last week, we did control a lot of the match and we had it going our way a fair bit, but we were just too inexperienced and not composed enough to make the most out of it. This week, however, I would argue that not a single metric or whatever you want to call it, nothing went our way. Nothing was lighting green. Did we have the ball in our hands more? No, we didn't. The Crows not only had more of the footy, 40 more disposals, but the way they played ensured that their possession was mainly whistle-based, finding free targets and working hard into space to provide leads, and cutting off our supply by applying pressure and heat around the pill when we had it. So they kept us to 59 marks, which is really low considering we're usually a fairly uncontested team. But better than that, they had 129 of their own. They had 70 more marks than us. They just completely controlled the game. And I don't think you can win a game of footy with a mark tally like that. We had 40 more hand passes than them. Our contested possession stats were pretty even, but the Crows just managed to find so much more space and time, and it was that hard work to be the link in the chain. They had 80 more kicks around that mark. I think it's so damning to see this happen early in games where you just see the Crows find space. They work hard because I don't know, you can see the life get sapped out of teams when a side gets control like this, because the Crows were busting their gut to progress the ball forward, and they were working hard and getting reward for it, whereas Essendon were running the same level of distance. There's nothing sinister in the distance covered stats, but the work we were doing often went unrewarded, and that is how you sap the life out of a team. It's why when they were so much harder and cleaner at the contest as well, because they were getting in a groove, getting their hands on the pill, everyone getting a fair share, whereas Essendon had blokes who just couldn't find themselves in the contest. They couldn't get involved. I thought the Crows really killed us with the way they moved the footy. And that heat, the pressure index was through the roof. And I guess bringing it back to effort, but a stat I absolutely hate. This is my least favourite combo here. Having less of the ball and less tackles. It's always a huge indicator that your pressure sucks bad. We had 41 less disposals, but 12 less tackles, and that just doesn't fit right. And I haven't seen any of the footy shows or anything yet, but I know there's going to be quite a lot talked about the lack of two-way running and the lack of accountability for midfielders drifting into the forward line, because it happened way too much where our back six was just under the pump all day because they had players popping up inside 50 around them that weren't being tracked by their direct opponent. It was a really poor defensive effort, and that is not heaping blame on the back six, that is the team as a whole. Now, people might look at the midfield battle and say that maybe we won that because of the clearance count, but that is probably where stats lie. I mean, you can't look at me and say that our clearances had any venom behind them at all. 39 clearances, but how many of those actually played into Adelaide's hands? Yeah, we got to change things around the midfield. I feel like we're either lining up with players that can win a clearance but do nothing with it, or players that can do something with the ball but can't win a clearance. I don't know, there's no in between right now. Last week it felt like there was more to it, but this week it was just not really a win for us in the guts. I thought aside from Merritt, no one really did anything that great out of the centre. Durham was okay, maybe Caldwell, but they were nowhere near guys like Dawson and Crouch and Saligo, because the numbers for me, sure, Sartas and Caldwell got a bit of the ball, but they weren't clean with it. What is frustrating to me is seeing Adelaide's team and individual disposal efficiency. So keep in mind, we had more hand passes than kicks, shorter targets. Hand passes are easier to bite off than kicks. They had more kicks than hand passes and more meters gained. So theoretically, we should be hitting our targets just a bit easier, you would think. Our disposal efficiency was 71.8. Adelaide's was 78.6. That is way too grand a differential to compete with. And let's look at some of their players, individuals. So Matt Crouch had over 30 touches, over half contested. He was going at 90%. Ben Keys as that link, he was moving the ball. He not only kicked 4 goals, but went at over 80. Laird had over 20 and had a perfect 100% efficiency. Their high ball winners were really clean. And then on the flip side, I mean, aside from Merritt, what did our high ball winners do with the pill? So Caldwell went at 77 from his 27 touches, but almost 2/3 of his game was in the defensive half. He only had 3 inside 50s for the game and 2 clearances. Last week he had 10 clearances. Elijah Sartas had the 25 and 11 clearances. It's a good effort, but his disposal let him down. Yes, he won the ball, but he went at 41% by foot and barely got involved going forward with 3 score involvements. The next highest ball winner was Dylan Shield, who was supposed to be injecting run into our game of halfback. He had 21 touches and 3 of them came in the forward half of the field. I mean, you really do have to feel bad for Merritt. We genuinely don't have anyone we can turn to after him. I'd honestly say our most reliable players after Merritt are Langford and Ridley, but they wouldn't have made much difference because it was just a game won around the ground in the end. I mean, I could yap on for so long, and I did yesterday. I posted a video. I was about to post a video where I just yapped and yapped and yapped about how we lost the game and how bad it was and how bad we look in defence. How abysmal some of the performances were. I'll do that more in my player ratings video. I'll talk about them. But it wasn't a game lost in the coach's box and lost again by a better team. But I just thought some of the efforts out there were awful. And it's really hard. It's hard enough beating a good team with injuries. But if you then have a solid chunk of the team just not pulling their weight, it makes it near impossible. I think in the end we were lucky we weren't playing a top team. That to me was reminiscent of GWS 2023 a bit. So I'm glad that we got that out early. I think it's important to have games this dreadful early into the year because it's a bloody big wake-up call. The club really now needs to respond. We are so much better than that. And, every team in the comp is better than that, what we dished up. That is not at all where our standards are. Well, we were soft and lazy and just outworked and outclassed by a much better team. The good news is the bruise-free game makes the 5-day break a breeze. Bake. We shouldn't be tired at all in the Port game because a lot of energy was preserved here. The boys left plenty out on the field. Really just a horrendous and boring performance. We got to hope that is rock bottom for the year. I mean, there were so many things that went wrong. There are games like last week where it was a bit of chess, one team winning one part, one team winning the other, but yesterday there was not a single thing going our way at all, I reckon. It was just all Adelaide in every aspect of the game. They really, really should have won by more. 61 points flatters us the way we played. I thought we were genuinely dreadful, so let's get on to the votes. 1 vote to Tom Edwards on debut, and let me just say, because I feel like I glossed over him a bit, but well done. He was playing his first game for the club and genuinely one of the only ones out there giving it a proper crack. I thought he was decent. 3 goals in your first game is really good. So congrats, Tom, for the debut. Sorry you couldn't do it at a better team. 2 votes to Sam Draper, another 3 goals. But I mean, the only player really deserving of any proper praise is Zach Merritt. He was magnificent. 36 touches, 4 goals, an absolute masterclass, and his team went down by 61. He really is way too good for us. My role player is not Zach Merritt. He's already got votes. Isaac Kako. I thought he was fun, but yeah, clutching at straws a bit there. Anyway, that is that. Leave your votes down below and let me know what you think. I'm honestly pretty keen for next game now. I'm going to be there, travelling down for the night to watch. I think we need we need a response of some sort. We got to have reasons to believe that some of these players are worth persisting with, because right now, list spots are looking like gold with the new draftees coming through, and especially if we finish pretty low down, we'll have some pretty high picks. I'll talk about the VFL as well, by the way. That video is going to be out on Tuesday, but yeah, let's just forget about this match and move on and hope it's the worst game of the season. Cheers for watching, Bomber fans. Keep supporting the club. Don't lose your head too early, because, yeah, plenty of good teams start the years really badly. So persist with it a bit longer. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and go Bombers.